Hello and welcome to In Focus. In this episode, I chatted with Jasmine Hart. Jasmine is the educative trainer in Can Do, the social enterprise that is based out of Child Vision. In this episode, we talked about what it was like to go through education and find employment as a person with a vision impairment. We hope that you enjoy. Jasmine, welcome to In Focus. It's really nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Today, we are going to have a chat about what it's like to be a person with a vision impairment, navigating education and then ultimately employment.
Yeah, sounds good.
So going back to the start, what was your experience of education as a person with a vision impairment?
So my experience of education goes back 25 years ago to Child Vision.
Sounds like a long time.
Yeah. It's crazy when you put it in hindsight. So I came here when I was 9 months old.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was the youngest in the creche at the time. And I was there for 3 years and then went into St. Joseph's as a follow-up and did my whole primary school journey there. And then towards the end of 6th class, a visiting teacher advised that they thought I'd be well capable of taking on mainstream school because they thought it'd be a great way for me to kind of get familiar with the area and stuff like that, because I was never there, because I was always here Monday to Friday, and then on the weekends I was either at my nanny's or whatever maybe, so I wasn't really friends with anyone in my community.
Yeah, you weren't getting out there.
Exactly, yeah. So they thought that it would be best for me to kind of venture that way. So I done that. I went to a mainstream school in my local area, and that lasted up until after my junior cert with some great difficulty. And then after the junior cert, it just wasn't working anymore. I felt like my needs weren't being met. And because like that, it was larger classes as well. I felt like even though I was assigned an SNA, I wasn't fully assigned an SNA, if you know what I mean, because like that she was trying to help out with other people who were struggling in the class as well, who should have been entitled to an SNA, but
Okay.
that's a different story.
Yeah.
So then I made the tough decision that, because I kind of felt a bit defeated then, but after talking to my resource teacher in the school and my mum and having a lot of conversations, a lot of tears, we came to the decision that it would be best for me to move to Rosmini then, so that way I would have the best chance at doing my leaving cert. So then I went straight into 5th year, and it was literally the best thing I've done.
I'd like to ask you about some of the difficulties that you did encounter in the school. You mentioned that having an SNA, it sounded like you kind of had to share resources.
Yeah,
How did that?
very much. There was a lot of people in the class who had additional difficulties when it came to, like, there was a lot of us that were dyslexic, and because the teacher was trying to keep up such a fast pace for the rest of the class, everybody else who was struggling even more then, because they thought they weren't getting the extra support that they deserved.
Yeah.
My SNA was lovely. She would do anything for anyone. So
They are great.
yeah, she was an angel. Like, she was trying to spread herself across the class then to make sure that nobody was falling behind then, even though obviously she was supposed to be one-to-one with me, because like that I could see why she was doing it. I didn't mind, but then I'm like, oh, but now I'm not benefiting. I'm not benefiting the way that I should be, and like having the same like opportunity as everybody else, because
it's a resource that you needed.
Yeah, exactly.
And it sounds like she would be in a hard position as well, because obviously, you know, she's assigned you and you have a certain level of need that she's aware of and that she can cater to.
Yeah.
But then if you're looking around the room, you see other people who are struggling. It's a very natural human kind
To help.
to want to
Yeah.
help, you know? Why is it, do you think, that there were so many people who had support needs that weren't being met?
I think it's because a lot of people weren't receiving diagnoses.
Okay.
Especially even for me, like I came from a school, like even a primary school that was catered for people with additional needs, and like I didn't get my diagnosis with dyslexia until I was, I think, 10.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And then like that, it was a bit common for a couple of other people who were in the school as well, who actually made their whole way to secondary school and didn't get a diagnosis. So it does put it in perspective of, like, even though the resources are there, especially in them circumstances, but even still people can kind of slip through cracks. So you can only imagine then what it's like in a mainstream school when there's like 30 plus kids in one class, how easy it is for people to kind of fall behind in a way.
Absolutely. And then was the junior cert year, like that's the time that you were looking at changing schools? Was it getting to that kind of exam period and really being tested, I suppose, that made you reflect upon, well, am I getting what I need? And is this the place that I should be?
Yeah, definitely. No, thank God I did have a reader and a separate room for my exams, which I think made a huge difference for me. Um because like that with my dyslexia and obviously being visually impaired as well, it takes me double, if not triple the length of time to read a, a question that like someone might have in 5 minutes.
And exams are always so
Added pressure.
yeah, it's so high pressure, but also so particular on time. It's like people will go in and they have a certain amount of time to get through the whole exam, and then you have a teacher who will be like, "Oh, you should spend this amount of time on this question and this on the next." But those rules kind of go out the window, you know. And there's nothing wrong with that either, in the sense that there's no right way to go about these things, but it means that you need more time.
Exactly.
Just in terms of like understanding, yeah, how your vision kind of interacts with your reading or your learning at the time. You were saying that it would take you slightly longer to read something. Would you also have any different kind of like larger prints, or would you use a screen reader? Like, what were you using to be able to access the information?
So my main source was large print books. It kind of just seemed like the easiest option.
Yeah.
Because it was more regularly available. No, like that it did take a while because obviously they had to like order them in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So it did take a little bit of time, but once they got sorted, like it was very straightforward. And because like that I don't know how to explain it, but like I'm very, like I don't like my disability being very centered, if that makes sense.
Like you're way more than your disability, I suppose. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be central to everything about you. Yeah.
Yeah. So like I probably should have used the screen reader more, and I should have used other tools to make my life easier, but I didn't like how it put the attention straight onto me.
Yeah.
And then like even down to the fact of like, say, where you were placed in class.
Yeah.
Teachers couldn't understand, even if I was at the front row of the class, how I still couldn't see the board or anything like that. So if there was someone who I knew technically wasn't visually impaired, but say might need glasses, and they would benefit from sitting at the front, I'd rather them sit at the front.
Yeah.
Because they're going to benefit from it. It makes no difference to me.
Okay, so you're saying that like with the level of vision impairment that you had, you didn't necessarily need to sit at the front of the room to be able to see. Like you were accessing the materials in front of you, and no further.
Exactly.
Okay. Also, I think that, you know, growing up from being a child, also being a little bit older and into your teenage years, we can be self-conscious. Like it's a period where you're learning about the world and you're getting to understand how everything works, but like you kind of are understanding yourself too. So there's a bit of introspection and a lot of feeling, and like, of course, nobody really wants to be the center of attention, you know, let alone for something that you aren't choosing.
Exactly. And it kind of makes you feel a bit more isolated then as well.
Yeah.
Like people see you as different.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah. Even though you're fundamentally not at all. Yeah. Oh, it's a challenging one. It's interesting. And you know what? I'm glad that you did what you needed to do in terms of moving schools again. When you were in the secondary school that you were in for your junior cert, you said you were getting adapted materials still. Would that have been from Reading Services and Child Vision sending the books?
Yeah.
Okay, got you. And then for your leaving cert, you were back here in Rossmini?
Yeah.
Okay. And how was that?
A completely different experience. It was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. It was so nice.
Good.
And I think it was partially because like that it was still a mainstream skill, but like that it was just way more adaptable to people. You know what I mean? Like everything was kind of on site, so like if you needed resources, they could just go across the road. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't this waiting around for potentially months. Like even, I know it's kind of fast forward a bit, but after I'd left secondary school, I was waiting 1.5 years before I even got a laptop for college because of the software.
Really?
Yeah.
1.5 years. And how were you expected to do anything in between?
Just figure it out.
Yeah. And
it's
but
crazy
who's
though.
meant to figure it out with you? Like I personally, I don't know if again, it's not about me, but if I were to put myself in that situation, it's like you're waiting on a support from somebody. So in the meantime, is it just you by yourself trying to figure it out, or are there other people who help you, or how does that work?
There would be kind of like support tutors,
Okay.
but they wouldn't be as like say tech savvy and stuff like that. Like they could have been there maybe 20, 30 years. And like that, they have all the good intentions in the world.
No shade.
Yeah, no, of course not. Because like that, at the end of the day, they did make a difference, you know. But like it's not like having someone who works in IT on
Or
a regular.
familiar with their specific needs as well.
Exactly.
You know? Like if they have an experience of general disability, whatever that is, because you know there's no average disability.
Yeah.
But if they don't have experience of vision impairment or also things like dyslexia and mixed in with that, like they're figured it out too.
Yeah.
So what did that look like then? You go to a lecture, you don't have your laptop. What do? You have to write? Do you have to have type? Like how does that work?
Thankfully, I had a kind of like a scribe.
Okay.
Through them years.
Yeah.
The awkward thing was you weren't guaranteed what scribe you would have.
So your scribes change. You're not like assigned to somebody. How did? Okay.
I don't know.
This is raising more questions.
Yeah.
That's giving answers.
So say for example, like it would be kind of based on your semesters, because like that they would have to hire someone in to suit your hours, but also they might have to do 5 other people.
Okay.
So it would be a lot of job sharing going on.
Yeah.
So I remember for the first year in mobility, I had one scribe and she was great. She typed everything up and sent it to my personal email, so at least I could access it from home.
Yeah.
Sometimes she would print things out. If like that the lecturer was passing around PowerPoints and stuff, she would just automatically print stuff out and give them to me before the class started.
And does she do that in large print? Wow, cool.
Yeah. So I think like it depends on the person, you know.
Yeah.
And then after that, then I did get a laptop, thank God, because I don't think I would have got through the rest of college without it. I really
understandable.
Yeah. And then I had 2 scribes in one semester, and one would handwrite stuff, and I can't read handwriting. Which is really frustrating.
You explained that to them. You said, "Hey, I have this specific thing where I cannot read normal handwriting because I have a vision impairment."
Yeah.
Also, dyslexia can affect how we see like letters and words and stuff like that. And did they not want to cater to that?
It would be like they'd almost forget, like because they were keeping up with so much of a workload.
Again, though, it's the shared resource thing. It's similar to the SNA in that you know when you're supporting many people. Okay, that's frustrating.
Yeah.
And then, so how did that work? Like, do you think that your results suffered? I'm not saying that they did. It's not a loaded question, but like, did you see a change in your pattern of work, or did you, you know, how did that affect you?
Yeah, like I did, because I would have more access to material than if it was done the right way.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I not like to belittle anybody or whatever, but like, I do think like there was a difference between when I had certain resources and not having them fully done. So yeah, I do think a little bit, because like that then I wasn't able to even research as much as I wanted to then myself, because I didn't know what the basics were that were wrote down. Yeah. To be able to go off on my own and say go on to a library, like a digital library, and find resources on it.
I think you're making a good point in a sense, though, in that my question there was about performance, but it's actually not about performance, it's about access. So realistically, as a normal person, you should just have access to whatever documentation and resources you need. And then you can pass or fail your exams like anybody else in college. You know, you don't have to be a straight A student just because you got what you needed. But the point is that you're given the opportunity to just perform as you are. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So access is the important thing there.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow. This is a great conversation. Okay. So I would like to ask about then how you chose the area that you wanted to go into. Did you have different aspects of your life, I suppose like most people do, that influenced their choice in career? Or was it something that you were pulled towards? Or how was it that you chose what you wanted to study?
I'm not even saying this because I'm back here. It genuinely was because of the help I got here.
Yeah.
And like seeing it from going from having all the resources here and then going away from that,
Yeah.
seeing the difference then
Mhm.
that it made, and then coming back, being like the relief that it gives to have everything there. So I think like I always knew I wanted to work with people, but I just didn't know what kind of route to come down.
Yeah.
So then like that when I got into the end of school, I was like, oh, what am I gonna do? And I thought, oh, I'll do social care. Um, not realizing fully what social care actually was.
Well, I don't
at the
think anybody
time.
knows what they're getting into when they
Yeah.
go to college. It's like,
Mhm.
I think I like this thing, and then you
Yeah.
find out what it is. Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I did 2 years of that. Um, I enjoyed it, finished it, and I actually applied for another social care course, but it was an undergrad course. Um, and I didn't get the marks to get into that straight away. And the college were lovely. They put me in touch with a resource, the NLN, National Learning Network.
Yeah.
I linked in with them and they said that they were on site on the campus, which I was immediately like, oh my God, that's amazing.
That is great.
And they brought me in, did a tour of the whole campus. And they were like, look, you might not have the social care, but there is community and youth work available. And they said the modules in the first year are practically the exact same, at least up until Christmas and anyway. So they said, look, take the offer of that, and then like that, if you do decide that it's not for you and you still want to go for the social care line of work, then come December, people do tend to drop out a little bit. So if even one space becomes available, you could take it because you could just transfer over because all your classes have already been the same anyway.
That's some good advice.
Yeah.
Wow, what a nice thing to have people actually take an interest there and say, well, hold on, here are your options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than just being like, no, that's it, dead end.
Pretty
Like,
cool. And where was this?
this was TUD.
Shout out to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. That's class. That's really cool, by the way. Okay, right. My next question. So you progressed through college. You had potentially a more positive experience there with more support.
Definitely.
That's great. You also, I think, establish what it is that you need. And when you're a little bit older, you can advocate for yourself too in ways perhaps you can't.
You wouldn't realize how you could before.
Absolutely. So then finishing your education and moving in towards employment, how was it that you found navigating the job market when you graduated?
So before I actually finished college, I had already tried to seek employment, kind of in like smaller roles, kind of like shop assistants, that kind of thing, just to have some sort of level of experience because I was later going into college. So I didn't want to get to a point that I was like, say, 24 and had no experience in any type of job.
Yeah.
Because then I was like, okay, realistically, is that going to be a, like, what would you say? Like it's like not a barrier.
Yeah, well, is it going to hurt your chances of getting a job that you want? Yeah, absolutely.
So I was kind of just going for anything. And I had some good interviews and they were like, oh, you're such a nice person. You seem really bubbly, blah, blah, blah. Great chat. But unfortunately, it's not going to work out, or they would be like, oh, we'll be in contact, and then you'd be unsuccessful. And it kind of seemed like everything that I was going for, it was just getting shut down, and I didn't really know why. I was just purely putting it down to the lack of experience at the beginning. But then like that, once I got my qualification, I was like, okay, well, that gives me a bit more of a stepping stone. And then I started applying for things that were more in that realm, and was still getting kind of rejection after rejection, which was really difficult.
Yeah, it's really disheartening, but also rejection's an interesting thing. It can really make it feel so personal. It's like, well, what have I not done enough of, or what don't I have to offer? Even if it's just a matter of there being like a better candidate, it always feels so personal. And I think in that circumstance, when you have that many people who reject you for employment, it's like, well, what is going on?
Yeah.
Do you think that there was a reason, like I mean, to ask plainly, do you think that your disability was negatively taken into account? I'm laughing because it's such a loaded question, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, do you think that that was something that they looked at and they were like, oh, we don't know what to do?
I do think in certain circumstances, I do know for a fact with one.
Really?
Yeah. How do you know? One told me very to the point. I had a great interview, and they were like asking me kind of hypothetical questions that obviously I knew was going to be asked.
Yeah.
I answered them great. They were happy with it, and they were like, "Oh, we love everything you've said. Yeah, we know you don't have experience, but you could work on that. Blah blah blah. But do you really think it's something that you could do?" And I was
Oh
kind of
my
like,
God.
"What do you mean?"
Yeah.
And then it was like, "Well, with your disability, like, does that not stop you from?"
Oh my God.
And I was like, "Well, no."
Yeah.
Like, I go about day to day life. Do you know what I mean? Like, what's the difference in what I'm doing now to
You shouldn't have
doing
to
a job that I
justify it
know?
either, though. Like, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be applying for the job if you didn't think that you could do it. You
Mhm.
know, I feel like firstly it's discrimination. You're not.
Especially when someone claims to be an inclusive employer.
Yeah.
That's the even more kind of a kick.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you're not allowed to discriminate when it
Mhm.
comes to disability, and there are other like protected areas, I suppose. But sounds awful that they would say it to you like that.
Mhm.
But I suppose they might have been like one of a few people who, in a sense, perhaps were discriminating,
Mhm.
and they just happened to say it to you.
Yeah.
What an experience.
Yeah.
Oh my
So
God. I'm sorry.
you can only imagine then how
Oh.
I just felt completely like defeated.
I'm sorry that that happened
Yeah.
to you, because it shouldn't happen.
No.
You know what? Yeah. People like that, I suppose, in a sense, you wouldn't want to work for them anyway. But it
Yeah.
didn't make it better at the time.
No, of course not.
So after that, then, where was it that you first found some success?
Oh, back here.
Sorry. I forgot I'm your hiring manager. Well, you know, okay. I like. So I asked you just now, like, where did you first find some success? And I forgot that it was here in Can Do. And the reason why I forgot and why I asked you where you first found it is because you are such a capable, like, I would read you to be experienced person who has so much to offer the role that, in a sense, it doesn't really feel to me like this is your first job.
Yeah.
You know, like meeting you as a candidate, you have all the qualification, like you've got fantastic qualifications for the job. You've got lived experience, which is something that every organization that works with people with disabilities should have, because there's so much to offer from that experience. But how long was it then between graduating college and finding a role that looked past your disability and just saw you?
Well, I graduated in October 2024.
Okay.
But finished college in the May.
Yeah.
So from May to May,
Yeah.
because that's when I had done the interview here, was May. So for a full year.
Yeah. And how did you feel during that year? Like, was it just...
Honestly, I was getting to a point where I was questioning, should I have gone into that line of work? Was I actually capable of doing it? Was that the reason why I wasn't being successful? And to be honest, I was just gonna stop bothering. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you persevered, because, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I think you're probably not alone. I know for a fact that there are a lot of graduates who have a disability, or multiple disabilities, and who have things to offer to the people around them and to the community, and then to their workplace, if we want to be really formal about it. You know, they can do their job well. But yeah, it's just a pity to see that it is such a struggle to get into employment. How is it that you found settling in here? There are no right answers. No, I'm a justice manager. There's nothing you have to say to it.
Literally, it's so weird. Like, when we were first talking, when I came for the interview, I was a bit nervous in case, I don't know how to explain it, but like, I was relieved coming back, but I was nervous of the case of, okay, is this going to be somebody who already knows me? Am I getting this off my own back, or is it because I have a connection? And then like that, when it was yourself who interviewed me and another person who I hadn't met before.
Yeah.
And I honestly just had like such a relief then, because I was like, okay, this is just based off of me now, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I guess being in the disability space, like we just, it's not that we see past it. I don't really like that expression.
Yeah.
'Cause I think it implies that there is this like thing that has to be considered and looked past and kind of disregarded to see the person. It's not like that.
No.
We're all humans. We all have these different kind of parts of ourselves and different parts of our personality and different ways that we operate. So I think it has to be holistic. But I do think that working in the disability space just allows you to see the person,
Yeah,
which is how it should
definitely.
be. So I'm glad that that was your experience starting out here. How was it getting into the actual work?
Great. I don't really know, like, what, I don't know, like, it felt like so relatable to my own experience, but like on the opposite end of it as well, which was really nice. Like, if you know what I mean, like, it's like I came in experiencing all the services and making my way through it, and then now I'm on the opposite end, kind of like providing the services, which is really nice.
Yeah, it is a nice thing. And it's also, I think in a sense, it's kind of like a power shift too. Like, not that people who you provide services to are kind of lower in terms of status or anything like that, but like it's kind of just a change in having more responsibility, being able to lend your experience. Like, it's nice in a sense being towards the top of that.
Yeah, it's got like to help, you know what I mean? Like, to kind of give someone else the experience that you've had coming through. And anyway, you know?
Absolutely. And then you have a good read as well. You can kind of think back, oh, well, if I needed this, or you can recognize things in other people that you recognize in yourself. And that's something that I could never give to the role the way that you could. So in terms of working in an environment like ours, I would consider you to have strengths that I don't have because of your experience.
Yeah.
Which is something that you might not find in other workplaces. What I would like to ask you then, and feel free to answer this openly. You don't have to stay here forever,
Okay.
as much as you're great at your job, but what would you like to see happening with you professionally in the future?
I think I'd like to kind of go down the line of like advocacy, probably after a couple of years. Yeah. When I feel like I have a bit more kind of under my belt then to offer to the role. Maybe like I think I'd still like to stay in the disability space purely because of like I feel like it's relatable for me in any way. And I actually need to tell you this. Sorry, actually. I was only thinking of it earlier on and I was like, you know what, I'll have to say that to Sophie.
Tell me.
So I had a little job for about 2 months before COVID came and kind of screwed everything over.
Of course.
And it was in a kids play area type thing. And I was there, it was grand. And then one day, I was working and a little girl came over to me and she was just chatting the way kids do. And I don't know how it came about, but she said to me, "Oh, I'm visually impaired." And I was like, "Really, are you?" And she was like, "Yeah." And I goes, "Oh, well, do you know something? So am I." And she didn't believe me, obviously. And she was like, "No, you're not. You're working." I was like, "I know." And then it was so cute. I'm like, "Oh, can't."
Just gonna cry. Anyway.
So she was like, "Really?" And then I was telling her like my name, and she was like, "Oh, I can't remember the child's name now. It's terrible. I think her name was Ava." And she was like, "Oh my goodness!" And then she just ran off, and I was like, "Okay," going about my day. And then about half an hour later, she came up to me and she pointed, and she was like, "This is her here." And her man came over to me, and she's like, "Sorry, can I ask you a question?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course." And she was like, "My daughter's after being at the table and she was talking about like what she was doing and stuff like that. And she was saying she was talking to another girl who was visually impaired." And I was like, "Oh, right, okay." And she said, I was just assuming it was another child, but she said it was somebody working here. And she was like, "Are you actually visually impaired or were you just telling her that to be like nice?" And I was like, "No, I am." And she was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, no, I am." And she was like, "Really?" She was like, "Do you mind? Like, can I ask, like, how visually impaired are you?" And I was like, I told her my condition. She was like, "Oh my God, that's Ava's condition."
Really?
Yeah. when she heard my diagnosis, she was like, "That's crazy," and blah blah blah. And she was like, "And you're working?" And I said, "Yeah." And then we were just chatting, and she was like, "Oh, I go to a visually impaired school." And I goes, "Let me guess, it was Joseph's." And the ma said, "Oh, don't tell me you went there as well." And I said, "I did." And she started naming out teachers, and I was like, "Yeah, I had them." And she was like, "Oh my God." But it was so cute.
That's so nice. But it's
Yeah.
also like it's lovely for people to get a sense of where their child could be.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think for a lot of people, when you have a child that's born with a disability, sometimes particularly I think blindness can be quite a striking one because people are unfamiliar with it.
Yeah.
There can be a sense of, I don't know what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if my child is going to be able to enjoy the things that
Yeah.
other children can enjoy. If they can have a normal life.
Mhm.
So seeing people that not only kind of live but thrive and do things that they enjoy and,
Yeah.
you know, they
It's-
represent a lot of people.
Yeah. Because like with my condition, it's kind of like a spectrum. Like when I was born, like obviously I said I had no vision at all, but like I have like other kind of things that come along with it. Like I have sensory issues and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and like the hospital told my mum I'd never walk, never talk. All this,
Really?
yeah.
What?
So it's crazy. Like,
I
and
don't
then
know.
when like that, me and Ava's mum were talking, she was like, "It's just so lovely to see what she could be in a few years because like that she's well able. She is literally running around playing at this place now, and she has some vision, and like she's like, yeah, she has other difficulties, but to see the potential that she could have for her life, she's like, it's actually a big relief."
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was such a nice like experience.
That's a
You know?
lovely thing to be
Yeah.
for other people as well.
Mm.
Wow. What a gift.
Yeah.
Jasmine, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us today.
You're welcome.
It's been really interesting. I hope that people listening could get a sense of what it's like to come through education as a person with a vision impairment, some of the challenges you can face, but ultimately the fact that you can overcome them and find employment that not just suits you, but that you specifically thrive in. I mean, I think that you offer a lot to the role that you have here that a person with without a disability perhaps couldn't.
But obviously, especially for parents as well, like it could, as you said earlier, like it can be scary, like
Yes.
like the thought of the unknown and like not knowing like what future is ahead for your child. But
Well, here's the proof that
Yeah.
it could be great.
Mm.
That's so nice. What a lovely thing to be able to give people listening. And so well done.
thanks.
Thank you for joining us.